Alright, let's go ahead and start fresh here. So go ahead and push Control in. Don't save. We're going to start a new scene. And let's go ahead and push Control S to save the scene. We'll go to our level design folder and down to scenes. And this will be called Scene 1. We can do an underscore on there. So we have a Scene 1 right here. If you notice up at the top, we're in Scene 1. Let's go ahead and get a little creative here. We're just going to use the basic shapes that we've done. We'll block out a simple level design. If you go to your Create 3D Objects and choose Plane, let's go ahead and place a plane inside the scene. Now, do you see the grid that's here? If you don't want to use the grid, or if the grid is something that you're not needing at the moment, up at the top bar on the Scenes tab, you'll notice you have 3D gizmos and Show Grid. You can turn both of those off. We don't need those at the moment. So we have a standard plane inside the scene. Always a safe way to start. Once you have a plane inside the scene, when it comes to how do things look, where do things relate to each other, the first thing that should probably come to mind is that you need a character to interact with the scene to make sure you're actually looking at and creating an environment for them. So if you go up to the menu bar and go down to the import package, you'll see one that says character controller. If you click on character controller, you'll get an option that's going to bring in a third person, first person controller package. Let's go ahead and do the import on that one. Now these are very basic controllers. Unity has a new set of controllers they're using now for a first person and third person, and we'll take a look at those as well. These are ones though that come installed with Unity, and we're going to try to use everything that's just directly within the Unity environment to start with, and then we'll start expanding our horizons around it. We have a first-person controller and we have a third-person controller. If you click on the first-person controller and drag it down into the scene, you'll notice that you have a capsule, and then you also have a large box coming from the capsule, which is actually a camera. Remember to get to the first-person controller, if you have everything rolled up, what you're looking at, you're going to see standard assets, character controller, and inside of it you'll see the prefab for first-person controller third. If you have the first-person controller selected using your move tool, be sure that the character is above. Notice he's above the plane right here. So make sure that he's actually above. Don't have him in it or he'll fall through the floor. You want to make sure he's above it so that he'll land on top of the floor. At this point we could actually push play. And what you should see is that when you push play, you'll have your standard first-person control. You'll be able to use the arrow keys or WASD keys, and then use your mouse to do the pivoting around and looking. Alright, so that's going to be the very start to it. We'll go ahead and turn this one off. Now, this next thing you may notice is that now that we have two objects inside the scene, we also have a very dark scene. If we were to turn the lights on, so this top bar, there's that little light option right there. If you actually click the lights, notice how dark it gets inside the scene. So we're going to add a basic light to start with. We'll talk about and add more of them later, but we're going to put a light in so that we can at least see the elements of it. So if you go to your hierarchy and create, you go down to the one that says light. We're going to start off with a directional light. Directional light is going to be a sunlight, in essence, is going to be casting rays in all the same direction. So we'll place a sunlight inside the scene. The directional light over in the inspector, if you have it selected, you'll notice the shadow type is set to no shadows. If you have the option for hard or soft, go ahead and choose the hard or soft shadows. The quality settings, resolution, you can choose very high if you have the option for that one. Alright, and so if we wanted to take the lighting, we've got lighting set up here. Now for Unity's character, the first person controller, they actually have the idea is to turn off. If you go into the first person controller graphics, it's to remove this. This is stand in until you actually place your own object. But since we're going to use this one currently, we could turn on our cast shadows if we wanted, and we could even receive shadows. Alright, so let's go ahead and go back up to our first person. We have our character in the scene. We have a platform right here that we're going to start with. For the platform, let's go ahead and start we're going to block out a basic level with some basic shapes, take the character up and down, place them onto another plane. If you go to your hierarchy and go down to your create, and at this point, we'll go through some things, but the main idea is just to kind of have fun with it, be creative with it. I'm going to place a block inside the scene, a cube. Now, using the scale tool, I just want to scale the object left and right until we get it to a little bit larger of a size here. Alright, so we could also use our move tool. Now, if you notice, I'm changing my tools quicker because I'm using my hotkeys. I'm pushing Q to go to the scale tool, I'm pushing W to go to the move tool, so it makes it a little bit faster. Now, one of the things is that when I'm moving, I'm actually moving. It's a free move. There's no snapping to it. If you want to do snapping, you can actually hold Control, and Control is going to snap for you. You can go over to the Edit on the menu and down to Snap Settings. Snap Settings, by default, I believe it's going to be set 1 to 1 and 1 on the move. And if you notice, if I do this now, if I'm holding down the Control key, I have a nice incremental snapping right there, going up and down. And it's going to work for all the different angles on it. You can also place in, for instance, rotation and scale. Rotation does every 15 degrees. Maybe you want it only every 45 degrees. You can change them up and set them however you like with it. Some people use it so often they leave it up. You may find yourself just going to it occasionally and updating a different one depending on what type of movement you're doing. We'll set ours for the moment. I'm going to set it just to the 0.5 and 0.5. Alright, so we have our one object in the scene. Now remember, if you're going to make a duplicate of this object, you can push Control D to duplicate. So now we have two. So we'll do a basic little thing right here. We'll block it out with a basic shape, then we'll come back and create a prefab, and then we'll replace them with those. Alright. So if we were to put a panel here, how about we make one a little bit higher over here, and we'll push Control D again. We'll make one more panel over there. There we go. And then how about we take this one and we'll make this one even bigger. So we'll say that it's going to be really large inside the scene. There we go. And then we'll even move it up a little higher than the others. Alright. So we have a couple of basic platforms right there. We have our character in. If you haven't saved in a while, you may want to save. Let's take this one again. Let's just push Control D. We're making another copy. And this time, I'm going to move it out, but I'm going to use the rotation, and we'll rotate it. So how about we rotate it just about and we could even be exact if we want. We could say about a 30-degree. At the moment, just try to keep it where it's more about just kind of having fun with it. Remember, if you want to scale and you want to scale it locally, be sure your local is set on there. So we're going to just do a nice local scale with it. And I'm going to scale it out. And then we'll just move it down. Now, when it comes to snapping, so we have a snapping on a move where we can do this, but what if I want to actually get in here and I want these 2 points to be right next to each other? You can hold down the V key, and if you hold down the V key and you just move your mouse around, you'll notice as you move it around, it's going to jump to vertex points. Well, I could actually left click on this one, and when I start to move it over there, do you see how it just snapped right there in place? So wherever you snap, wherever you move it to, it's going to snap to that spot. So get comfortable with it, feel like you understand it and get control of it. But now we have a really nice angle right there. Alright, so let's go ahead and move our platform, this piece right here. Let's move that up just so that we're looking at, so that it's right at the top. So I'm going to hold the V key again, and then I'm going to move it up. So now we have this nice clean edge right there. Alright, so let's do the same thing for this one. And you may have to move your platform around a little bit, so we're going to push Control D, make a copy again. And if you have to push the platform around, that's fine. If you have to scale it up or down, that's fine. We're just trying to make it comfortable, but also enjoyable. So again, I'm going to scale this one out to about there. I'm just going to use my V key, so hold V down. And be sure you're in your Move tool. So your Move tool, hotkeys W. Just going to left click on that one and drag it right there to that corner right there. So now we have a nice snapped edge to that one. And if you notice, this one's a little bit off, so let's go ahead and move this guy using the V key, this guy over to that spot. So now we have a really good transition from one spot to the other, and it just continues to go up nice and smooth. So we want to make a copy of this one. We'll make a smaller walkway up to this bigger spot. So let's push Control D again with that one selected. And then let's go ahead and rotate this just a little bit. My rotation is about 15 degrees. And we'll go ahead and scale it all the way around. Somewhere around there. We'll see if that's and you can just eye it. We're not trying to be exact. That's the fun part about just having fun with it. So I'm going to change to my Move tool, holding V down. Again, we'll just hover over these, left click on that vertex corner, and then move your mouse all the way up to there. And if it jumps around on you, don't worry about it jumping around yet, because we're just simply playing with a it's looking for different vertices in the scene, so you don't have to worry about it messing up or doing something weird. Just keep moving it until it gets to the vertex point you're interested in. So this one, I'm just going to actually move this over and push it into the spot. I'm not actually going to make it perfectly aligned to it. So we'll make it close. We'll actually kind of go a little bit lower right there. That way the player has a little bit of a step they have to make. So let's go ahead and save this where we're at. And we'll hit play real quick. Let's make sure that our player can comfortably walk around in the space that we're giving him. So we now have a higher platform. We can see that top one we've got to get to. We can keep going up here, and we can keep going up to the very top. Alright, so now we have a good view of our whole level all the way up here, and if we're daring, we can actually jump off and land back at start. So that's going to be your basic setup. We'll add a few more details, and then we'll start working on some texture.